Hi Stampin' Friends, it's Chris Slogar from BuckeyeInklings.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make a couple of cards using our Sending Flowers dies. It'll be something similar to this, except we're going to make it an over-the-top kind of shaker version of this. Okay, so you see this big die cuts that centerpiece with all the little intricate stems and flowers, and then we have two label dies. And we have two separate sets of flower dies. So with 4 flowers each, you can make eight flowers at once to add to your little garden. So these dies are not in the catalogs. They're a special release while supplies last, and they're $27. They're called Sending Flowers dies. You'll find them in the online store, but you won't find them in a catalog. Okay, so we're going to get started. I have a base started that is Thick Whisper White, and I've attached Seaside Spray Designer Series paper in the Basic Color Collection patterns. This measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. If you have a pattern that is coming from a 12 by 12 paper, it's fine to make this only 4 inches wide. That looks fine. You can almost see that here. I've got this Balmy Blue print mounted on Balmy Blue, and you can't even tell. But since I have this cut from a 6 by 6, I just made it 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Okay, and then I have a piece of soft seafoam that measures, let's see, it was 4 1/4 by 4 3/4. And I've already cut that big die pattern from it. And I have a window sheet that measures 4 inches square. So what I'm going to do, the window sheet is going to be the back for my shaker card. And I'm going to tack down the window sheet on the back of this cut die. And I'm also, in addition to using some tear and tape all around the outskirts here, I'm going to put some dots of Tombow glue right on those flowers. Okay, so they will not flop around off the window sheet, you know, because they could be damaged going in and out of the envelope. So I'm just going to put a couple little dots of glue around so that these will be secure, and put the window sheet on the back here. Okay, and this is really pretty. I've done this in some other greens too, like Pear Pizzazz. This is, as I said, soft sea foam. I will put on my blog a picture of the one I did in pear. That was really pretty too. Okay, you might need to give this a little second to let that glue dry. So I'm going to come back when that's dry. Okay, good. I just want to make sure that all those skinny little stems won't be flopping around. And then I have a bunch of flowers. I've just run those 2 dies with 4 flowers each through my die cut machine in all the colors I wanted. I keep a little tray of the flowers, and I like to decorate the front of my card face before I do all that assembly. So I'm putting a little glue down on the flowers that I'm going to add. I'm going to add color to. In this case, I actually cut, instead of out of a green, I cut out of white, and I colored those flowers and stems with my blends. So whichever way you prefer, that makes a really gorgeous little garden. Oh, I think that should have been a big tulip. Okay, so I'm just going to lay down all of these flowers, and I will speed the video as I add all the additional flowers. Okay, so my flowers are decorated and the front of my card is ready. And now I'm ready to make the shaker portion. So I'm going to turn this over and add adhesive strips, the foam adhesive strips, around the circumference of the circle. Okay, so I'm going to just take a strip and get close to that edge. And these foam adhesive strips are a little thicker than our dimensionals, so they're a little better suited for shaker cards. There's a lot more room in here to shake. And what I'll be adding as shaker pieces are both some of the cut flowers that I have and then some of our iridescent sequins. Okay, and I'm just gonna splice that end together here. And ordinarily, I would like to put my sequins into the opening I've created and then lay the back on. But because I want to get this centered, I'm going to do that the other way. Now, I am adding, I'm just taking my embossing buddy and kind of rubbing around to cut down on the static and whatever extra stick might be on the inside of this adhesive on the foam strip. Okay, so I've got that ready. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up my card base so this can lay flat. And I'm going to put my shaker material right in the center of this card. So I have a bunch of flowers cut, the ones that I'm not using, in those same colors that I've used on the front of the card. And gosh, that's probably enough so they can shake around. And we're going to want some of these iridescent sequins as well. They're so pretty. And I'm just staying in, you know, the area of that circle. Okay. And then I'm going to reveal this backing and then very carefully line this up and put this down over all of the sequins. Okay, so this is where I didn't want to do this in reverse because I want to center this over the height of the card. So I'm just very carefully going to move in like so and push those edges down. And then we can see all our shaker material moving around in there. That's so great. Okay, then all that's left, and I said this is like an over-the-top card, but you see that wasn't that hard. Probably the biggest chore was just having a little container of flowers prepared, okay? But that's easy. So I've got stamps from the Bonanza Buddies set. There's one that says, "Let's Celebrate You," that I love for this. And I'm going to do this kind of like our catalog sample, where I just mount the two labels to each other. And I'm going to trim the end flush and then add some white baker's twine here and tie a bow. Okay, so super fun and definitely worth the effect. I like these dies because they're kind of different than our run-of-the-mill, you know, like the dies that just cut out shapes that you apply to cards. I mean, this is a really fun twist. So I like things like that are different. And trim my tails. And then I've got here, this is great for the edges of the dimensionals, where I can mount this to the card then. And there you have a shaker card. Okay, now like I said, if you don't want to do something quite so involved, if you want like a simpler version, but to get that same look, another thing I like to do with these dies is, here's the sample, is just make a simple little panel with those stems and flowers. Okay, so let me show you how to do that. I've got a Whisper White square cut with the stitch dies. Okay, this is the 2 5/8 inch square. And then I've just cut a portion of a Granny Apple Green square of the same size. So what I'm going to do on the Granny Apple Green one, I'm going to preserve the stitched end and make that a 3/4 inch deep piece. All right, and then I'm going to take the die here. I didn't pre-cut this so that you could see what I'm doing. I'm going to take a piece of Granny Apple Green. It doesn't have to be the full size of the die, okay, because we're going to be taking out this portion with the flowers. That's all we need. So I'm just going to make sure I cut the flowers and stems. And I'm just, because that's so detailed, going to go over it a couple of times and pull this out. All right, so let me grab my pierce tool here and push out the portions that are the negatives here. Comes apart pretty well. And the fact that it's all one piece makes it a lot less fussy than it looks. You know, it looks like a bunch of little flower dies, and it's really not that complicated. Okay, so I know that I'm not going to use like this entire span of flowers. I am going to figure out here what I want to use, and I want to see like from this flower over to this flower. Okay, this is what we're going for. So I'm just going to trim away this tulip leaf to free up that flower and trim off that end. Let me smooth that up a bit. And probably a lot of this I'm not going to need. Okay, but just going to kind of put that in place where it's going to go on my white stitch square, and then I'm going to dab a bit of glue across the stems. We're not going to cut the stems apart. We're going to get some glue on them and lay this 3/4 inch bottom edge of the square over them. And we're using this as a guide because we want to see what the finished look is going to look like. We're not cutting the stems apart until we have this whole assembly glued onto this piece. Okay, and once that's glued on, then you can slip under here with your scissors and cut away the excess. Okay, and then you won't have to place all those stems separately. All right, and then you can put those flowers down. Let me poke the centers out of these flowers that are still here. Okay, and I'm going to just glue that all down to my Whisper White square now. And it's a sweet little, less involved card. All right, so I'm just matching the stitch line with the stitch line that's there. And then again, I won't go through all of this, but then I'm just adding decorations to the flowers. I have the pineapple punch pieces cut and the flirty flamingo tulips and then purple posy flowers. I would add all of those and mount it on a scalloped flirty flamingo piece and make the card of it. This is Seaside Spray. The mat is 3 3/4 by 5, and it's embossed with that new, gosh, it's from the Tropical Suite. That's like a basket weave, and it's a regular card base. Okay, so I won't go through all of those steps, but that's how you create that background piece, and then you just decorate it. So I hope you'll give these dies a try. They're really a lot less fussy than they look. That's what I love about them, because this piece is all one die, so that makes it easy to work with. Okay, thanks so much. Please visit me at buckeyeinklings.com if you need any of the products you see here. I also have a Facebook group, Buckeye Inklings Stampers, where I do additional videos. Sometimes they're repeated on YouTube, and sometimes they're different than what you'll see on YouTube. Okay, thanks, guys.